Oh, Tashidele, John, and all the Hayagiwa Buddhist Center's committee member, and all the students and practitioners, and Dhamma brothers sisters who are directly or indirectly connected to Hayagiwa Center in Australia. I'm recording this few series of video on the request of Hayagiwa Center Director John, on behalf of Hayagiwa Center, for the students and friends of Hayagiwa Center, and to anyone in Australia as well as around the world, whoever watching this during this very difficult time for everybody, from the COVID-19 health crisis that experiencing around the world, including in Australia. Every day today, things are getting more and more intense. I was supposed to do some teachings in the center, but it seems like looking at the current situation, there are a lot of the restrictions for the benefit of overcoming this coronavirus crisis in around the city, in the country, by having strict social distancing measure, and increasingly encouraging to do the isolation, self-isolation, and also there's a restriction of having gathering in a group. So I think this is a very, very important for us to follow the rule and regulations, and in particularly the strict measure that advised by the medical doctors and the government officials, which they are too doing this for the benefit of each and every one of us. So therefore, it is each and every one of our duty for the protections of yourself and your loved one, and as well as the rest of the other Dhamma brothers, sisters, and rest of the other community, larger, for the benefit of all the humanity, that we should happily, follow the strict measures that are implemented by the government. And as a Dhamma practitioner, we in fact can utilize this time to really develop our spiritual practices, really to have a quality time for yourself, with intense retreats in practices such as like fulfilling the deity yoga commitments. I think many of us have received so many initiations, and due to the busyness of life, day-to-day life, work and family responsibilities, etc., we hardly have time to enough time, like minimum like two weeks or more, to complete the commitment retreat, which most of the commitment retreats take around 2 weeks, and some retreats, of course, it takes even few months, or even if someone is doing great retreat, then 3 years, 3 months, etc. So we always express that we need quiet time that which we don't have to go out and do work, socialize, etc. So I think this is great opportunity for us to utilize this precious, this very precious time. Precious in the sense that also to fulfill one's practice, but also it is very precious time for us to make our body, spirit, and mind in virtue, intense virtue. Accumulating immense or positive energy, and that positive energy, through the channel of frequency, through the channel of dedication in altruism, we dedicate to all the sentient beings happiness, and all through the channel of frequency, through the channel of dedication in altruism, we dedicate to all the sentient beings happiness, and all the humanity's happiness. In particularly this very time, we dedicate our positive energy, our meritorious karma or meritorious deeds to all the people that who are passed away due to this coronavirus, for them to have a peaceful journey through intermediate state, for them to actualize higher rebirths and never to reborn in the suffering world, always actualize rebirth in the Pure Land and liberation and enlightenment. We can also dedicate to those who currently are ill due to this COVID-19, and who are hospitalized or who are experiencing the symptoms at home. They urgently need not just the medical care, but also the positive energy and meritorious contributions in order for these people to find timely treatment and most effective treatment, and to able to recover and able to have a virtuous, meaningful life. So we can accumulate abundance of merit, and we can contribute that as a conditional causes for others to cure from these sicknesses and overcome the difficulties. And also we can dedicate this merit through our practice. We dedicate this merit to all the people in the front line, like such as doctors and nurses and the police force, the government officials, or anyone in the family who is leading the safety and the the needs of the family members or the society. All of them need to have perfect health and full of positive attitude, full of compassion, full of wisdom, full of strength, in order for them to lead their responsible people, whether it is in the international level or national level, or whether it is to state level or to the community level, even to the family level, or even to one's own individual level. In order for oneself to take good care of one's health of body and mind, one need to have full of methods, like such as genuine sense of loving kindness, compassion to yourself, and full of wisdom to protect our mind and body from the negative energy, negative influence. So there are in this world right now almost in entire humanity, full of negative energy. The negative energy through fear, anxiety, confusion, anger, frustration, and grasping. So there are immense of negative energy, fill the entire world. Even just to do with this COVID-19 crisis. And there's so many people have lost job, lost their families. From many aspects, so many people, they are in a deep crisis, and without any choice, will bring immense of negative emotion, and that it is so harmful for the protection and for the cure of one's body, speech, one's body and mind. You see, so therefore, it is extremely important. Those who understand the karma and those who understand the power of positive energy, power of positive attitude, or power of the positive vibes, to really take very serious responsibility or serious measure within each individual of ourselves to fully dedicate our day and night, entire our energy of thoughts, entire our energy of body, entire our energy of speech, entire our energy of thoughts, entire our energy of body, entire our energy of speech, in accumulation of extensive virtues. And then dedicate to the well-being of all the humanity, all the families and all the humanities and all the sentient beings. From temporary happiness, such as finding the cure for this COVID-19, able to have full, complete, most efficient, most effective, most professional, the frontliners, like such as doctors and nurses, etc., for them to help the needy ones. For us to find the cure for this disease, and all human beings, able to experience sense of freedom, sense of peace, sense of calmness, even though it is temporary, but to experience from that temporary happiness, to find freedom from this COVID-19, all the way up to the everlasting happiness of liberation and everlasting happiness of full enlightenment. So from Buddhist understanding, the whole samsara, and of course, the very obvious samsara of this COVID-19 crisis, it is not just conventional, it is not just a result of the conventional negative causes that which brought about this crisis. There are also a play of ultimate causes, which are the negative imprint and negative karma that are collectively committed by the entire humanity and the individually. So due to that, that we have to experience the result. We created the action, so we have to go through the result, to experience the result. Unless individually or collectively purify it, And all these negative karma, negative actions are committed through delusion, such as ego, pride, anger, self-cherishing, self-centeredness, revengefulness, etc. There's so many negative emotions, that also very much develop on the basis of ignorance, not knowing the the one's own negative action, the consequences of negative action, not just others to experience, but oneself is the one who experiences the most if one commits negative karma or arises negative emotion. See, so therefore, conventionally, the officials advise the medical science, the measures we really need to take extremely seriously, very responsibly. We need to take it in order to tackle this crisis. Ultimately, we need to engage into purifying our body, speech, and mind. Purify all those negative emotions. Purify the impact of this negative emotion, that which is the very fearful, atmosphere, or the contamination of this very negative vibes that is going around in the world, such as fear, anger, confusion, etc. So all this can be purified when each and every individual, such like the conventional way, we take a strict measure by following the virtuous guideline, by following the the Dharma guideline. As a Buddhist practitioner, following strict Buddha's teachings guideline. Then those different religious faith, all the religious faith offer the cultivation of virtue. If you follow that, there's only benefit to the well-being of sentient being, well-being of humanity. You see, even as even from the universal value, cultivation of loving kindness, compassions are very valuable practice, very valuable cultivation. When each and every one, take responsibility to cultivate the basic human value, loving kindness and compassion, surely it will contribute immense of positive vibe, positive energy. And not only that, individually start to take transformation, the freedom from negative emotions, as well as negative karma. And that way, collectively, we can able to heal ourselves, we can able to heal our family, we can able to heal our... So therefore, conventionally, the officials advise the medical science, the measures we really need to take extremely seriously, very responsibly. We need to take it in order to tackle this crisis. Ultimately, we need to engage into purifying our body, speech, and mind. Purify all those negative emotions. Purify the impact of this negative emotion, that which is the very fearful, atmosphere, or the contamination of this very negative vibes that is going around in the world, such as fear, anger, confusion, etc. So all this can be purified when each and every individual, such like the conventional way, we take a strict measure by following the virtuous guideline, by following the the Dharma guideline. As a Buddhist practitioner, following strict Buddha's teachings guideline. Then those different religious faith, all the religious faith offer the cultivation of virtue. If you follow that, there's only benefit to the well-being of sentient being, well-being of humanity. You see, even as even from the universal value, cultivation of loving kindness, compassions are very valuable practice, very valuable cultivation. When each and every one, take responsibility to cultivate the basic human value, loving kindness and compassion, surely it will contribute immense of positive vibe, positive energy. And not only that, individually start to take transformation, the freedom from negative emotions, as well as negative karma. And that way, collectively, we can able to heal ourselves, we can able to heal our family, we can able to heal our society, our town, our city, our country, then the rest of the humanity, rest of the world. You see, so I believe that not just focusing on the external measure, but extremely important for us to same time focus into inner measure. You see, so therefore, so there will be a series of teaching requested, practical teachings. I won't go through the technical, philosophical teaching, but here I very much wish to be straightforward, something practical, something that we can use right now. And the Higher Giver Center Director John, he requested for me to give thoughts and teachings on these 6 perfections, 6 paramita. I think that is a really, really perfect subject that for each and every one, for us to utilize or apply as a measure, inner measure, for us to have a meaningful days, as a protection, as well as to develop our heart, as well as a measure for us to use our body, spirit, and mind, full in the service of your family members and your friends and yourself and your community. So I will be recording each perfection, teaching on each perfection in each video. But for this video, I would like to talk about the basis of all the Dharma, basis of all the virtues. Whether you are a believer or not, whether you are a Buddhist practitioner or not, anybody would appreciate being as a good human being with a value. And the value of the good human being is compassion. The value of a good Dharma practitioner, whether you follow any yanas, solitary or hearers or Mahayana, whatever yana you follow, the basis of the development in the spiritual practice after liberation is the compassion. In particularly, those who cultivate the Bodhisattva yana or the Tantra yana, then compassion is the ultimate base, you see, without which no liberation is possible, without which no happiness is possible, without which no enlightenment is possible. Why I say without compassion, no happiness is possible? Without compassion is not possible to accumulate, genuine sense of positive or virtuous causes or virtuous karma. You see, all the happiness are result of virtuous karma, positive karma. All the sufferings are a result of negative karma, non-virtuous, you see. So therefore, compassionate attitude, compassionate speech, compassionate physical action, whether will become virtue or not, is defined by whether it has the element of compassion or not, you see. So therefore, it is suitable for anybody. So in particularly, compassion really act as a healer. It heals our heart, it heals our body, it heals the environment. It heals others. You see, when someone cultivates compassion, the anger, self-centeredness, grasping, everything will start to fade away from our system. If someone is expressing negative emotion towards you, negative action towards you, such as abuse, etc., when you generate compassion, you won't get the effect of the harm. You see, then whatever negativity is going around in the society or in the world, when you develop compassion, you have a different perspective. Instead of get disturbed, rather you can able to contribute benefit to solve the adversities and difficulties in the society. You see, so therefore, compassion is a great healer. You see, so I would like to read. There's a write-up in His Holiness book, The Art of the Happiness. It says that in recent years there have been many studies that support the idea that developing compassion and altruism, the bodhicitta, has a positive impact on our physical and emotional health. In one well-known experiment, for example, David McClellan, the physiologist at Harvard University, showed a group of students a film of Mother Teresa working among Calcutta's sick and poor people. The student reported that the film stimulated feeling of compassion. Afterward, he analyzed the student's saliva and found an increase in immunoglobulin A, which is an antibody that can help fight the respiratory infection. So you see, so this is a modern science, through investigation, through testing, they found that even just expressing compassion, even looking at the visual pictures and videos, able to develop antibody that fights, respiratory infection. So when we talk about the COVID-19 health crisis, it is very much regarded up to now. What I hear is very much the infections are very much transmitted through respiratory infection. From the it transmits from the respiratory, fluid that transmit the disease. Up to now, what I hear is something like that. You see, so even the modern science, through their analysis, they found the cultivation of compassion has a healing power. You see, so not only that, there are so many examples. You see, like our gurus, like Kyabje Lama Sopa Rinpoche, through the cultivation of loving kindness, compassion, there's no kind of inconvenience from the physical inconvenience or the external inconvenience. You see, ever can able to live with a full of energy, full of positivities, full of virtues, without affecting by any external inconvenience. Like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, a very clear example. When we compare, our life, towards what His Holiness Dalai Lama went through, is in comparison. His Holiness Dalai Lama, since a little boy, he went through tremendous challenges in his life, since a little kid up to today. You see, when you look into the history, what His Holiness has to face in relation to the difficulty that he faced, for the Tibet, for the freedom of Tibet and the Tibetan people. But also, very obvious that one of the most aspirational, one of the biggest hearted person, one of the most uplifted, positive person, who is, full of compassion, oceans of compassion. Or when we compare, our life, towards what His Holiness Dalai Lama went through, is in comparison. His Holiness Dalai Lama, since a little boy, he went through tremendous challenges in his life, since a little kid up to today. You see, when you look into the history, what His Holiness has to face in relation to the difficulty that he faced, for the Tibet, for the freedom of Tibet and the Tibetan people. But also, very obvious that one of the most aspirational, one of the biggest hearted person, one of the most uplifted, positive person, who is, full of compassion, oceans of loving kindness, complete selfless, full of, cherishing the rest of the numberless sentient beings' well-being. It's a physical, lively example, like His Holiness Dalai Lama. Who he is, why he is this way, is because of the cultivation of their compassion. And not only that, in Buddhist histories, in Tibet, there are, in one of the region, had extensive, epidemic diseases like leprosy. Then they took the, extensive measure by cultivation of the teachings on adverses, which is very much the cultivation of intense altruism or great compassion. So due to that, able to completely cure and heal and protect from the epidemic diseases like leprosy in Tibet. Due to that, such as teaching of adverses even regarded as the teachings of leprosy. The nickname was given because of, by taking strict measure in the cultivation of practicing adverses, the practice in compassion, like such as Tonglen practices, practicing bodhicitta, practicing loving kindness, compassion. All these are the theme practice of adverses. You see, so due to that, all the epidemic diseases were cured. You see, so not only that, Gelong Mapemo, the lineage, the founding lineage of the Nyungne practice. You see, Gelong Mapemo went through very serious skin diseases like such as leprosy, etc. Then, under the guidance of Compassionate Buddha Chenrezig, asked her to engage in extensive practice of compassion, such as engaging, mentally, visualizing the Chenrezig, making aspiration towards Chenrezig, cultivation of loving kindness, compassion, inspired by Chenrezig, verbally, accumulate the mantra, like such as Om Mani Padme Hum, the long Dharani mantra, which is the compassionate, energy of the compassionate Buddha. Engage in extensive physical practices, which expression of compassion, such as making extensive prostration through your body, the merit field to the Chenrezig, you see, keeping numberless sentient being as an object of your benefit, from the temporary benefit, temporary happiness, after the happiness of ultimate happiness of full enlightenment. You see, so engaging extensive, like such as 7 limb practices, self-generation and front generation practices in relation to compassionate Buddha and compassionate practice, she able to fully recover. And there are many stories that even by engaging in the practice of Nyungne, even people who suffer AIDS or cancer, people who suffer cancer, there are obvious cases, people who are experiencing extensive cancer sickness, and by engaging the practice of Nyungne, they recovered like that, you see. So therefore, there are so many research have already done. Here, what I've quoted from the Art of the Happiness, what he's on is referring to these physiologists that at Harvard who have done the experiment to the group of students. How powerful that just developing compassion can able to produce antibody to fight the respiratory infection. But in fact, in the founding lineage of the Nyungne practice, you see, Gelong Mapemo went through very serious skin diseases such as leprosy, etc. Then, under the guidance of compassionate Buddha Chenrezig, asked her to engage in extensive practice of compassion, such as engaging, mentally, visualizing the Chenrezig, making aspiration towards Chenrezig, cultivation of loving kindness, compassion, inspired by Chenrezig, verbally, accumulate the mantra, such as Om Mani Padme Hum, the long Dharani mantra, which is the compassionate, energy of the compassionate Buddha, engage in the extensive physical practices, which expression of compassion, such as making extensive prostration through your body, the merit field to the Chenrezig, you see, keeping numberless sentient beings as an object of your benefit, from the temporary benefit, temporary happiness, up to the happiness of ultimate happiness of full enlightenment, you see. So engaging extensive, such as 7 limb practices, self-generation and front generation practices in relation to compassionate Buddha and compassionate practice, she able to fully recover. And there are many stories that even by engaging in the practice of Nyungne, even people who suffer AIDS or cancer, people who suffer cancer, there are obvious cases, people who are experiencing extensive cancer sickness, and by engaging the practice of Nyungne, they recovered like that, you see. So therefore, there are so many research have already done. Here, what I've quoted from the Art of the Happiness, what he's on is referring to these physiologists that at Harvard who have done the experiment to the group of students. How powerful that just developing compassion can able to produce antibody to fight the respiratory infection. But in fact, in Buddhist history, there are so many. In fact, all the past, Kadamba masters, our living masters and Kadamba masters, Indian pandits, such as Mahasiddhas, like 80 Mahasiddhas, including Guru Shakyamuni Buddha himself. They are living proof. They are the proof during their lifetime. Through the cultivation of compassion, they're able to heal their own body and mind. They're able to heal others' body, others' mind and body. You see. So therefore, during this period of self-isolation, or during this period of no needed to, be busy going out for work or social gatherings, etc. So take the full opportunity to cultivate, loving kindness, compassion, and that will act as a, genuine sense of, protection, as ultimate protection, oneself not to get affected by these diseases. And at the same time, because of oneself taking, this practice in the form of retreat, retreating from going out, retreating from physical socializations, rather oneself dedicating, minimum like 4 sessions, and each session, minimum about 2 hours. One can accumulate this great energy of compassion through, meditation in compassion, such as single-pointed meditation in compassion, using the compassion as an object of your single-pointedness. After, understanding the definition of compassion, first of all, the definition is the mind or the attitude that expresses that oneself, one's family member, rest of the humanity, rest of the sentient being, to be free from entire suffering and its causes of the suffering, and abide them in the state of temporary happiness after the happiness of full enlightenment. So this is the cultivation of loving and compassion, love and compassion. You see, so compassion is the mind that expresses suffering sentient beings to be free from suffering and its causes. Love is that heart that expresses suffering sentient beings to abide in the process. Love is that heart that expresses suffering sentient beings to abide from temporary happiness after the everlasting happiness of enlightenment, you see. So after understanding this definition, then you try to develop that, first through reasoning, the reason of there are people who are suffering, you see. So if there is no suffering being, then there's no opportunity for us to generate compassion. There's no need of generating compassion because there's no suffering sentient being, you see. And usually for us so difficult to generate compassion by reflecting on the overall samsaric suffering, like such as pervasive suffering, which is so hard, you see. Not only that, even we don't easily get understanding of the suffering of change. Only when we experience suffering or pain, then we tend to have some sense of compassion, some sense of renunciation in relation to compassion to yourself. You see, otherwise it is so hard for us to have the wisdom to understand the overall samsaric suffering. You see, the overall, so difficult for us to realize, the contaminated aggregates as are contaminated. You see, we always have this impure or wrong view of regarding, this contaminated body as a pure. You see, so therefore, right now, so obvious. Even little child, can understand that the humanities are deep in fear, deep in suffering. You see, it's so easy, so obvious that whichever news channel that you watch, whenever you talk to people, people are talking about the concern in relation to the COVID-19 crisis. You see, so until that, your whole system is very much like build up in the form of fear, like that. You see, so instead of dominated by the fear, rather use this fear as a reason to renounce the samsara and renounce these diseases, renounce the negative emotion, and take this as a reason to rationalize the rest of the other humanity too, like yourself, who are also in the same situation. You see, who are also in a deep crisis of fear, anxiety, confusion, anger, suffering, etc. You see. Then at the same time, they are similar like oneself. We do not wish to experience even a slightest form of suffering and encounter slightest form of causes of suffering, and we have the same kind of emotion that we want to experience, from temporary happiness up to the everlasting happiness. And we always wish to encounter all the causes and conditions for happiness, isn't it? So therefore, in the face of compassion and altruism, each and every humanity and each and every sentient beings are totally equal, totally same. Just having some kind of different feature, different color, different the conventional status, but ultimately we all are absolutely same. The others are exactly like you. There's no different at all from you. You see. So when we talk about thinking of them, how much they have benefited, as like in the Mayan teaching, we talks about they have been one's mother, they have been kind to you, etc., etc. Don't even need to go there. Just using this very basic, very simple, conventional, the nature of each and every humanity and each and every sentient being, we can understand that we all are absolutely same. What we want is exactly the same. What we do not want is exactly the same. You see. So therefore, it is like the greatest opportunity for us to develop great compassion, develop bodhicitta. Then benefit the rest of the sentient being, through the contribution of vast merit, vast virtues, vast positive energy, you see. Like, such as my late master, Kislam Kunjo, when he went through about 1 year of, nearing to the death due to his health issue, physical health issue, I saw that he's completely, he take this entire degeneration of his health as one of the marvel, like finding a most precious jewel, to bring perfection in his cultivation of loving kindness, compassion, and enlightenment. You see, the more the seriousness that his health goes, the more the nearing to the death, you can see that he's becoming more and more delighted, because ultimately the conventional negative circumstances help him to intensify his practice in loving kindness, compassion, altruism, and wisdom, and that makes him closer and closer to liberation, closer and closer to end the contaminated samsaric world. You see. So Geshe himself used to express that, how fortunate that I got a chance to go through this crisis. As I mentioned before, cultivation of compassion will develop, antibody to fight the respiratory infections and epidemic sicknesses. You see. So so you see, so this is it's a great prevention. It is a perfect way to take care of yourself, and it is also a perfect way to take care of your family members. When you are completely in the cultivation of compassion, you will not misunderstand the rest of the families. You will not get angry towards them. You will offer service to them. You will respect them. You will understand them. You will bring so much peace, so much harmonious within the family, because around this kind of time when all the family have to stay together in house for day after day, can be very challenging. I hear in the news that some of the domestic violence are increasing, because of everyone staying at home. You see, so you see, so it is really danger when everyone start to have a lot of time, and then you discover their individual differences and individual habits, and because of we are so habituated with self-centeredness and ego, and also hallucination most of all, we may misinterpret, we may misunderstand, we may not respect their differences, due to the ego-centered mind. We want each and every family to behave exactly the way you want them to behave, and from there, there's a danger of bringing disharmony in the family. You see, if the children has to stay at home, yes, time to time noise is beautiful, but throughout the day, every single day, you need to hear their noise, unless you are so patient. Otherwise, you may lose your cool. you see. So when you have a sense of cultivation of compassion, you have the perfect basis to respect, all the differences, and everything become activities of the compassionate Buddha's mandala. All the differences is activities of the compassionate Buddha's mandala. You see, like in the house, husband has his own job, wife has his own job, children has their own duties. Everyone has a different chores, different duties, isn't it? So similarly, in Cheresi mandala, all the different deities and dakas, dakinis, everyone like a family, has their own duty. But the activities in the mandala is everything to do with positivity, loving kindness, compassion, respect, understanding, wisdom, etc. But in our ordinary family, one day may be possible, but too many days, sometimes we may lose the coolness. You see, so therefore, when you are able to live deep in the practice of compassion, then even though rest of the family not practicing that way, but at least one person practicing the family can able to contribute greatly to create such a harmonious and peaceful family with much meaning in during this difficult time. You see, then when we talk about the benefit that you can able to dedicate to others is unbelievable, infinite, because of the cultivation of great compassion. The object of benefit you already included through your motivation, through your dedication, through each and every single in between where you are cultivating the practice which infused by the great compassionate motivation. The number of the sentient being, which is numberless, your cultivation, even you recite one Om Mani Padme Hum, you accumulate numberless merits. You think of charity one time, you will accumulate numberless imprints, benefit of numberless imprints of compassion, compassion charity. You establish numberless, the affinity towards compassionate Buddha, charity, because of, you meditate on compassionate Buddha, charity, the effort which infused by the altruistic motivation. You see. So when you dedicate, even though you dedicate to one person, specifically to someone that will request your prayer, to dedicate to someone, your family member who is more vulnerable, because of the practice that you conducted with the altruistic motivation, the dedication to one person have the power or capability of numberless merits, numberless virtues, numberless dedications. You see, so that much power of great compassion, that much power of altruism. You see, so it is like absolutely perfect measure, for us to cultivate, during this difficult time. Okay, so I think I should stop here. Actually, I was asked to record about 30 minutes, but seems like this one go beyond that. I hope that there's some benefits to some of you, who see this video, who listen to this video. No doubt that each and every one of you, was mastered in all these practices. But what I just did is just very much like sincere, reminder only. There's no greater wisdom in that. There's no greater idea in that. You already have so much, You see, many of you have already studied so much, so many scriptures, so many initiations, so many commitments, so many meditations, There's nothing to add on to it. But this is just a little reminder. And we need, time to time reminder, you see. So this is just a little reminder. And also, to fulfill the requests for me to record this video. Okay, so thank you very, very much, and please stay safe both physically and mentally. Please stay healthy both physically and mentally, and please take very serious, the health measure, both conventionally and ultimately, and both physical level as well as our mental level. Now, physical level is this medical experts' guidance, the physical social distance, but that doesn't discount the social engagement. We can engage, through media, we can engage through our prayers, through our meditation. We will never forget. In fact, the physical social distance, in fact, may be helping for us to truly, genuinely, wholeheartedly connect with the rest of the numberless sentient beings, the rest of the humanity, you see, without any kind of worldly concerns, you see. Our conventional way of physical social engagement, sometimes there's a lot of put up. A lot of put up, like, not genuine smile, not genuine hello, how are you, hey, die, whatever. It's become like a custom. I was taught to say, and I just say it. Sometimes it become a shake hand. Maybe in the heart, some people are angry about you, but still come and shake hand. So you see, so there are a lot of worldly concern, danger of worldly concern involving there, like put up a lot of makeup, put up a lot of lot of masses, there's danger, isn't it? Each and everyone, we know our own heart, sometimes to stay very pure is not easy, isn't it? But when we put into a physical social distance, then emotionally, inwardly, we really genuinely start to have a social connection with the rest of the numberless sentient beings, rest of the numberless humanity, Doesn't matter whether they are enemy, whether they are stranger, whether they are loved one, you concern for everyone, isn't it? In this kind of time, you do concern for everybody, isn't it? There are, in our life, in a human life, there are people who hurt you before. There are people you don't know, Now is, you care for each and every others naturally, isn't it? It just comes in your heart, you see. And you start to think that if they are healthy, if out there everyone don't have this coronavirus, you are also safe, even for your own well-being. Giving your own well-being as a reason, you start to have a genuine sense of concern of well-being of every other's humanity, you see. So for, especially when you start to meditate, you take the theme of your practices as a compassion, great compassion, then that really, bring a genuine, sincere, wholehearted, expression of connection to the rest of the sentient being, you see. So therefore, we are not kind of disassociating away, we are not kind of like isolating ourselves. We are just simply staying in a retreat, physical isolation, You see, we do that when we go to retreat, isn't it? So this is just like we are put into a retreat like that. Yes, there are a lot of losses, job losses, financial losses. There are so many crises that are happening around the world. Yeah. Therefore, we need to do retreat, isn't it? If everything is perfect, if it is in a pure land, is in a Buddha realm, no one need to do retreat, isn't it? You see, so so you see, so this is I'm talking about myself, and if there are anybody who is like me, that was so difficult to find time, so difficult to discipline our own body, speech, and mind to stay in retreat. So this time is like put you into a position that no excuses at all. You know, from 10 direction, you know, from every single side, you know, put you into a position that no more excuses. You see, so like that. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.